Good morning, gentlemen. Well, it's still dark. The sun has not risen, but it's early morning, and I'm going to talk to you about the battle in Ukraine. You must realize, and perhaps you're already aware, that this battle is one of the most important battles in world history. And it's going to be a game changer in the time to come. But when I was going through this battle in Ukraine, I was reminded of an old nursery rhyme, The House That Jack Built. When I was reading that nursery rhyme, there is a line which comes, there was that man, old, tattered and torn, who wed a maid all forlorn. The man in this case, I think, is Zelenskyy, and the maid is Ukraine, all forlorn. And the Russians are, of course, pounding away. Now we are reading a lot of reports that the Russians are pounding with rockets, with drones, with missiles, with supersonic missiles, with the hyper missiles. Yes, they are. And they're inflicting heavy casualties as well as destroying the infrastructure of Ukraine. No doubt about it. But there's a crucial rider to this entire thing, and that is that the Russians have not been able to capture the city of Bakhmut for the last 3 weeks. And if they can't capture a city which is with a population of 75,000, I wonder if they can ever think of capturing Kyiv, Kharkiv, or Odisha. How are they going to do it? You may be having the ascendancy in the war, but victory is not coming the Russian way. The Ukrainian army is fighting tooth and nail, suffering casualties. Their country destroyed. Zelenskyy is not bothered about the destruction, frankly. He is a megalomaniac man. I'll talk about him a little later, but as it stands, the battle in favor of the Russians, but the Russians are not winning. And what is going to happen next? Next is going to be nothing short of Armageddon. The Americans are also now wary of what the Russians are doing, and because they're escalating the conflict. You know what's happening? The Russians have moved tactical nuclear missiles and weapons into Belarusia. And they say we have not violated the SALT treaty because the Americans have nuclear missiles and bombs in Germany and Italy and Turkey. So the Russians have done nothing out of the ordinary. The Americans who did it first. And Joe Biden is now in two minds. The American Senate is also in two minds because there is rising prices, inflation in America. And at the same time, what's happening now, Ukraine's depleting the resources which have been given to them faster than they can be replenished, and they are in trouble. So the house that Jack built is collapsing. But then, like all megalomaniac dictators, these are the men who lead the country to destruction. We know about Mussolini, we know about Hitler, how they led their countries to destruction. And then there is also Mao Zedong, who got another 20 million killed for his personal glory, for the personal ideas which he had. So what are we going to do now as far as Ukraine is concerned? It's got about 10 million refugees floating around Europe. That means 25% of the Ukrainian policy has become refugees. I'd wonder if the Ukrainian leadership led by Zelenskyy is proud of it. Their infrastructure is destroyed. Ukraine used to be the granary of Europe. It's finished. All because he was chasing a dream that he would be the front-line state in Europe. He would be member of the EU and he would oppose Russia. Why? I have not been able to fathom what was in his mind that he should be so anti-Russia. I wonder if he remembered what happened in 1941. In 22nd June, the Germans had invaded Russia and they occupied parts of Ukraine immediately. And the Ukrainian peasants were welcoming the Germans with crosses. Welcome, sir, come. And then what happened? Within 48 hours, when the German army came, the Wehrmacht, They rounded all the girls 16 years and above and took them away to the German camps. And then you know what must have happened, and the Ukrainians realized, what the hell, we have to fight these buggers, and they fought with them, they joined the Russians. So fighting against the Russians is not that easy. And if Zelenskyy feels that the EU is going to back him, I think he's sadly mistaken. The EU is now scared. They're scared of giving aeroplanes, fighter aircraft to Ukraine on the warning of Russia. Nobody wants to get involved in a nuclear tangle with Russia, because if you do that, you're going to sign your death warrant, destruction. You go back to the Stone Age. Now what's going to happen next? And I ask a question to those people who are listening to this thing, that tomorrow if the Russians do explode a nuclear device in Ukraine, are the Americans going to attack Russia with nuclear weapons? Ask yourself. I don't think so. They're going to restrict instructions. So their best bet is just to prolong the conventional war. And the biggest culprit in this is the United Kingdom, which is now a small time power and still having great dreams of a grandiose world empire. And there is a leadership in England waiting to have a conventional conflict with Russia when they got an army of just 80,000 soldiers. Anyway, that's one aspect of it. The battle in Russia, in Ukraine, is continuing. That's no doubt about that. And the Russians are gaining, but they are not winning. And that is the crucial point. There was some proposals by the Chinese President Xi, who visited Moscow lately and legitimized the relationship with Russia, much to the chagrin of America. But Ukraine cannot accept such conditions, because it meant having a ceasefire in the territory which have almost 25 to 30% being handed over to Russia. So the war is continuing. Ukraine has fond dreams of throwing the Russians out, but the chief of the American Chiefs of Staff, a 4-star general, has already said that it's highly unlikely. Unlikely what? To throw the Russians out of Ukraine. But he has also added a rider, it's highly unlikely that Russia can occupy the whole of Ukraine. And I agree, because if they can't capture Bakhmut after weeks of fighting, how are they going to move hundreds of miles into Ukraine, which is a very large country? Gentlemen, the only thing now left is what next? And next is only Armageddon. It's going to be the big battle of all time to come. And I wonder how the EU and the United States can avoid it. The only way they can avoid it is by agreeing to the Russian terms, and perhaps this war would never have taken place if the Americans had not instigated Zelenskyy, and if Zelenskyy had not come into power. Zelenskyy, I think, is not normal. Maybe, I don't know what it is, what is in mind. I don't think a leader who loves his people can see destruction of his country, but he's presiding over it, and he seems to be pretty happy about it, moving around with the battle, with the bulletproof vest here and there and all that. What's he planning? I mean, we don't know. And he's not a knight in shining armor. His name had come in the Panama Papers and got money stacked away in London and the Leeward Islands and all that. I mean, that's for the press to say. It's the press which is stating it. I who have stated it. Gentlemen, the war is now on the last legs, I think. Last legs in the sense that something has to happen to break the stalemates. Somebody has to blink. Whether it's going to be Putin, or it's going to be Zelenskyy, or it's going to be Biden. Who's the man who's going to blink? I don't think anybody is blinking. And in that case, Armageddon was forecast in the Bible could be a reality and lead to the destruction of the EU. I wonder if the EU people realize that some of their countries are so small they're just equal to a few districts of India, and one nuclear or thermonuclear bomb is going to wipe out. I'll remind you the statement by Nikita Khrushchev, the first secretary of the Soviet Communist Party, way back in 1961, what did he say? He said, I just need 5 to 6 thermonuclear hydrogen bombs and England ceased to exist on the world map. Gentlemen, we should take these things very seriously. The war must be stopped somehow, because not stopping it is sowing the seeds of the Third World War and the destruction of Western civilization. I will close now and say goodbye to you all. Do subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, don't forget to like it, and I'll close now and say Jai Hind, glory to India. God bless you all.